First, some background. This is Paris. Paris thinks exclusively with his penis. Not because he's necessarily hornier than the average man, but because he does not have a brain with which to think. Luckily, he's pretty and rich, as he's the son of King Priam of Troy. One day, Aphrodite, Athena, and Hera want to know who's the fairest of them all, and because no mortal with any decent sense would ever participate in such a contest, because there's no way it could possibly end well for humanity, they ask Paris. Paris picks Aphrodite, because Aphrodite promised him the most beautiful woman in the world. In making this choice, Paris successfully angers Athena, the goddess of strategic warfare, and Hera, the vengeful queen of the gods. Nothing but winning moves thus far. So Paris goes to pick up his prize, Helen. She's married to Menelaus, king of the Greeks, but that's a problem brain thinkers consider, not Paris, who kidnaps her and returns to Troy. Menelaus calls on his brother Agamemnon and other Greek kings, including Odysseus and Achilles, to go siege Troy and retrieve Helen. Trojan forces, led by Paris' brother Hector, defend the city. The actual epic begins with some good old-fashioned human trafficking. Agamemnon won the daughter of a Trojan priest of the god Apollo in battle. The priest asks to ransom her, but Agamemnon refuses. Apollo, predictably, smites the Greek armies with a plague. An oracle blames Agamemnon for the plague, because it is his fault. Agamemnon throws a hissy fit, claiming that he loves his sex slave more than his own wife Clytemnestra. Spoiler alert, what Agamemnon doesn't know is that for Clytemnestra, the feeling is mutual. He almost literally shoots the messenger, but Achilles gets involved. It's been 9 years, and by now, Achilles is sick of Agamemnon's shit. Agamemnon says he's going to steal Achilles' beloved war prize, Briseis. Achilles says Agamemnon has a dog face. They argue, insults fly back and forth, until Achilles remembers he's a freaking war machine and whips out his sword. Athena swoops down from Olympus and grabs Achilles by the hair to stop him from killing Agamemnon. Achilles reluctantly stands down. He returns to his own ships, abandoning the Greek siege of Troy. Now, Achilles is the son of the goddess Thetis, and oh boy, suffice it to say, she probably comes over once a week to do his laundry. He cries in her lap and begs her to ask her father Zeus to utterly destroy and devastate his compatriots of the past 9 years. So Achilles is dealing with his anger in a healthy manner. Meanwhile, the Greeks are gathering their armies once again, sans Achilles. The Trojans too start gathering their armies. Paris leads the charge until he catches a glimpse of Menelaus and the Greeks. He panics and runs to the back of the pack. Hector calls him an embarrassment to their family, their city, and to humanity in general. "Don't hate me because I'm beautiful," answers Paris. "Oh, honey, that's not why people hate you." Paris then suggests that he and Menelaus settle this mano a mano. The Greeks agree to the challenge. Hector loves the idea. Best case scenario, the war is over and Troy isn't destroyed. Worst case scenario, Paris will be dead. There's really no way to lose. Just as the two men are about to fight, however, Aphrodite scoops up Paris and plops him in his bedroom with Helen. Paris asks no questions. Paris does not care that he is an embarrassment to his family, his city, and humanity in general. Paris is a simple man with simple thoughts and simple wants. Helen knows this about Paris, so she shrugs and they go to bed. Meanwhile, the two armies realize that Paris has poofed out of the combat. Menelaus thus wins by default, but the truce is broken by an overzealous Trojan soldier. Boom. War. Let's check in with the gods. Hera and Athena are on the Greek side because they understandably have a grudge against Paris. Aphrodite is on the Trojan side because she loves Paris. Ares loves Menelaus and many of the Greeks, but he loves Aphrodite more, so he's actually on the Trojan side. Zeus is on the Trojan side, but he also kind of promised Thetis he'd let the Greeks lose, at least for a while. The gods fight for their respective sides, gleefully interfering in the affairs of men, and then yell at other gods for interfering in the affairs of men. Athena gives Diomedes, a Greek soldier, the power to see the gods in the mortal plane. He kills a whole bunch of Trojans and then stabs Aphrodite in the wrist. It's not a mortal wound, obviously, but you wouldn't know it from her reaction. Hera, Athena, and Zeus call her a wimp. This pisses off Ares, who goes to kill Diomedes. Diomedes stabs the god of war in the gut. Nice. Ares comes crying to Zeus about Diomedes. Zeus tells him to quit being a little bitch. Hector goes back to Troy. He says goodbye to his mother and his wife and son. The baby is frightened by his reflection in his father's war helmet. It's cute, and certainly not a thematically significant cue towards the inescapable horrors of a war-obsessed culture. Hector also runs into Paris, who's just now scurrying back to the war. Freaking Paris. More war. Zeus threatens that any god or goddess caught interfering with the mortals is getting smote with lightning. Athena asks if that includes her, his obvious favorite. Zeus says no, of course not. The reason none of the inhabitants of Mount Olympus actually listen to Zeus is a mystery that may never be solved. Meanwhile, Diomedes is still kicking ass and taking names, but the Trojans are starting to push back the Greeks. Hera and Athena try to help him, but oh my gosh guys, stop, Zeus really means it, knock it off, or whatever. Realizing that the Greeks might actually need Achilles, their strongest warrior, in order to win the war, Agamemnon sends a 3-man delegation to convince him to come back to the fight. Achilles is casually strumming a lyre and for some reason seems to panic and stop when the embassy shows up, so is Patroclus the only one he allows to hear him play? Aw, that's cute. Odysseus makes his plea to Achilles. Wow, this guy's really clever and charming. I bet he could talk his way out of anything. He certainly deserves a spin-off series after this whole Trojan War thing blows over. Achilles asks why they're fighting this stupid war anyway. Why should they all die because Paris stole Menelaus' wife? The logic of Achilles' observation renders the men speechless for a moment. Neither Odysseus' nor the 2 other pleas work, though, because we still have 16 books left in this epic. After returning back to the Greek camp, Odysseus and Diomedes sneak into a Trojan camp at night and kill a bunch of soldiers while they sleep, keeping it classy. More war. Agamemnon and Paris are both fighting well, but I don't like either of them, so whatever, no one cares. Achilles watches the carnage from his ship, probably while wearing a fluffy white robe and sipping tea. He tells Patroclus that it's only a matter of time before the Greeks come and beg him to rejoin the war, forgetting that 3 Greeks were just there begging him to rejoin the war. Achilles sends Patroclus to go scope out the injured. Patroclus talks with old Nestor, whose entire shtick is that he's old. Old Nestor retells an old story about a time when he had to walk uphill both ways in the snow to kill cattle or people or something. Doesn't matter, he's old. This speech, however, still manages to get Patroclus riled up enough to want to rejoin the fighting. More war. But now the Trojans are winning. Hera wants to go help the Greeks, but Zeus is starting to get mad that no one is listening to him. So Hera attempts to distract Zeus with sex, which works because of course it does. Zeus's idea of foreplay is listing a number of his past lovers. Hera probably wasn't into it, doesn't matter, had sex. With Zeus down for the count, Poseidon leads the Greeks against the Trojans. Zeus wakes up and oh boy is he mad. He angrily demands again that the gods stop interfering in the affairs of men, but Ares' favorite son was just killed by the Greeks, so he's about to go interfere even harder. Athena manages to talk him out of it. Hera then sends a message to Poseidon telling him that Zeus says he has to stop. This pisses up Poseidon, who doesn't appreciate it when his brother pulls rank. Zeus then decides to interfere in the affairs of men himself, and has Apollo go and help Hector fight back the Greeks. More war. Patroclus returns to Achilles, approaching in tears. Achilles accuses him of crying like a little baby running after its mother, which is rich coming from a man who literally weeps in the arms of his mother twice in this epic. Patroclus offers to wear Achilles' armor and fight in his place so that the Trojans think the feared Achilles is back at it again. Achilles hesitantly agrees. Patroclus suits up and goes off to fight Paris. Achilles is worried he may die. Rightfully so. Patroclus' final word was Achilles, and it's kind of a sad scene. R.I.P. Patroclus, you absolute legend. Anyway, more war. This time, Menelaus has his shining moment. Whatever. Old Nestor's son breaks the news to Achilles about Patroclus. He doesn't take it well. Thetis tries to comfort him. Compelled by his rage, Achilles decides to rejoin the war. Apparently it's too early in the literary canon for him to completely reject the heroic ideal. Thetis commissions a new set of armor from Hephaestus, the blacksmith of the gods. He gets suited up like freaking Iron Man and goes to present himself to Agamemnon. Agamemnon offers him a nice meal before popping off to war, to which Achilles replies, verbatim, "I have no taste for food. What I really crave is slaughter and blood and the choking groans of men." Holy shit, dude. Odysseus manages to talk him down because Odysseus would never allow his desire for vengeance persuade him to slaughter people indiscriminately without mercy. Zeus calls all the gods together and gives them permission to fight for either side. Finally, the gods can now continue doing what they've been doing for the past 20 books without pretending they care what Zeus wants. More war, obviously. Achilles is on a rampage. Aeneas and Hector each tell Achilles that his words don't scare them. Well, yeah, it's his spear that's scary, fellas. Achilles slaughters so many Trojans that the rivers start flowing red with the blood of men, and the river god tells him he needs to, chill. Highly unlikely. Achilles even tries to fight Apollo before finally reaching the walls of Troy. Against his parents' wishes, Hector goes out to meet him. Achilles chases him around the city walls. Hector, buddy, his epithet is swift-footed. You're not winning this one. Zeus wants to save Hector, but Athena threatens that if he does so, the other gods will think less of him. That's not much of a threat, considering how little respect the other gods seem to have for Zeus in this epic, but it works anyway. Hector eventually stops running and faces Achilles. The men exchange words, and then Achilles kills him. I'd say rip, but I'm still mad about Patroclus. The Greeks return to their camp with Hector's body. Achilles decides to host funeral games in Patroclus' honor. Celebrations of life are apparently great for the grieving process. But not for Achilles. He can't get over Patroclus. When the pain gets to be too much, he ties Hector's body behind his chariot and drags it around Patroclus' tomb. Apollo keeps the body from corruption, so there's nothing really stopping Achilles from doing it over and over and over again. Meanwhile, the gods still can't quite give up on their human playthings. Zeus gets a message to King Priam of Troy that he should go and ask for his son Hector's body back. Priam does so, begging with Achilles for mercy. Achilles' rage has burned so hot that he himself is little more than ash. He is moved to tears by Priam's pleas and relents. Achilles promises to allow mourning for the Trojans, then he goes to bed next to Briseis, and the Trojans bury Hector.